The top stories for the week. So when I come back, I'll give you an idea of what the newspapers reported as well as online portals, among others. Stay with us. We'll be right back. So welcome back to what the papers are saying. My name is Vivian Kailoko. So let's go to the various newspapers, online portals, and then I'll give you an idea of what they reported for the week, the big stories, and of course bring in my panel for today's discussion. So let's start with City Newsroom, and it has the latest to the COVID-19 pandemic, the cases in Ghana, and it says COVID-19 cases in Ghana rise to 2,074 with 212 recoveries. Still on City Newsroom, Ghana's COVID-19 death toll rises to 17. We still stay with City Newsroom. Illegal immigrants to be repatriated when border reopens. This is Ashanti Region Immigration Service talking over there. Let's move to Daily Graphic, and they have this one. Our duty, national call. Health workers determined to win COVID-19 war. The new crusading guide, NDC split heads over Akufo-Addo's 88 hospital project. We move to the Daily Graphic, and ban on public gathering extended, 88 hospitals, 3 infectious disease centers to be built. This is the president speaking. Let's move to the Chronicle, and Minister shreds NDC argument on 88 hospitals. So the Ghanaian Times and COVID-19 combat. KNews, another develop rapid diagnostic test kit to support testing regime in Ghana. The Daily Graphic again, COVID-19 plight of workers, labor unions want tripartite engagement. Daily Graphic, use COVID-19 to build local industries. Sipayanki KIA prepares to resume domestic flights. The BNFT, coronavirus crashes feeble stock market, data bank report. Let's go to the new crusading guide, and 13 Ghanaian doctors contract coronavirus. Let's move to the ABC News. Mahama suffers COVID-19 setback. Can't select running mate. This is Asedu Nketia speaking. Still on the running mate matter for the NDC, the Daily Statesman says, we don't have running mates due to COVID-19, says NDC General Secretary. Let's go to the City Newsroom again, and GC Net's operations restored after Unipass port takeoff. Still there, Isaac Adongo slammed senior minister over Unipass challenges. City Newsroom, resolve Unipass challenges to curtail fuel shortage, COPEC to government. Let's go to the Ghanaian Times. Clearing agents importers stranded at Tema Port as GC Net shuts down. The new publisher, ministers crash port as Osafo Mafo Kwarteng rush Unipass takeover. The Daily Graphic, Unipass keeps importers stranded. The Ghanaian Times says, freight forwarders react to nationwide rollout of Unipass. And then let's end the matter of Unipass with the BNFT, which says, save us. Freight forwarders appeal to the president. Let's move on to some other story which made some headlines this week to do with the meningitis, and City Newsroom, 3 more die from meningitis in Upper West region. Still with the City Newsroom, government fully committed to tackling CSM outbreak. That's the Deputy Health Minister, Dr. Koboy, speaking there. Graphic Online, government delegation in Upper West assesses CSM COVID-19 situation. MyJoyOnline.com confirmed CSM death toll in Upper West region rises to 43, with cases increased to 273. And our last story on the CSM, and indeed on what the papers are reporting, the Chronicle says CSM ravages Upper West, over 40 dead. So let me introduce my panel for today. I have Samuel Atamensa. He's with City FM and City TV. Samuel Atamensa, welcome. And I also have Selam Adono. He's also with City FM and City TV. I head of features and articles here at City FM and City TV. Selam, welcome as well.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's start with this matter to do with the President's announcement to build some 88 hospitals and 3 infectious the nation on Sunday. Let me start with you, Selam. Over ambitious?
Well, it is an interesting call, or it's an interesting development. You know, healthcare infrastructure is important. No two ways about that. And any attempt to improve the healthcare infrastructure of a country is great. Health is one of those things that no matter how much investment you put into it, sometimes a lot of people don't see, because when people are well, some people don't value wellness. It's when people are sick that people realize it. So, for example, government can say it has sunk huge amounts of money into healthcare, human resource, everything to keep the nation well, but that doesn't really come out because it's money sunk into something, so you don't see it. Tomorrow people can get sick.
Yeah.
But if you use the money to construct road, the road will be there for people to see, and it's something you can point to. So I think that has been the discussion in many circles. So to promise to build 88 district hospitals and 6 regional hospitals, I think it's great. Like you said, it will be the biggest investment in health infrastructure since Ghana became independent, and that should be good. You know, however, I just wonder what the timing has been. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and he said something that the COVID has exposed a weakness of our health infrastructure or health system. And I'm wondering, that did he just realize it, and did he really have to say that COVID has exposed that? You know, I think when you take over a system, there is something we call an audit. You do an audit of what you have, and there should be long-term thinking. I think that's what the National Development Planning Commission and all these bodies are supposed to be doing. There should be long-term planning or long-term thinking, and there should be risk analysis. There should be all those things. So at this time, even before the pandemic, you know, the outbreak we had the outbreak, these things should have been known. And maybe he was being frank by saying that it has exposed our weakness. It should have been seen a long time. And it should have been
seen. So you believe this should have been planned like 2-3 years ago?
It should have been planned long ago. You see, the reason, and it's not just limited to this government, the reason why I'm a believer in long-term planning, I mean, having a national development plan, is reasons of this nature. So if you have a long-term development plan, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50-year development plan, you have a sense of what the needs will be at every maybe 5 years or 10 years. You know, so when you have those needs, then you know what contribution every government will be expected to make or could make to meet a certain target. You know, it may not be compulsory, but at least you have a target or you have something you are working towards. But in our case, we don't have anything, so we depend on manifesto politics. You go around, what the people think they need is what you give to them. There's a good side to that, but that is like a hand-to-mouth kind of politics. We should have a good balance between the hand-to-mouth, what I call hand-to-mouth, manifesto politics.
But isn't it better late than never?
Well, so it's great. So my only concern is that maybe next year, God forbid, something else comes out, it may not be health. And then we will say, okay, that seems to have exposed our weakness in that area. So it will be as if we are just jumping from place to place, you know, firefighting, putting up knee-jerk reactions. That's my only concern. Apart from that, it's a good plan to have 88 hospitals in 1 year. Though I really want to see how that will pan out. I'm not a believer in, I'm not one of those who say it is not possible to do. I am a believer in hope or of hope. I want to see things happen. But I'm only interested to know how he's going to deliver that in 1 year. Maybe he may not deliver the 88 or 94, but he may deliver a good chunk of it. So my thinking was, why don't you just say you are targeting 40? You are delivering 40.
Why do you want to cut it?
No, I'm being realistic. I'm being realistic.
The 88 is too.
Well, maybe he knows. Maybe he knows what he's looking at. Especially at the time that we have said that, given the pandemic, the economy has been thrown out of gear. Projections and everything will have to be redone. And now, 94 hospitals. And if you talk about district hospital, I don't know what the plan is, but the picture I have in mind is the one we have at the Shao Dodua place. I've been there and it is fantastic. When you are there, when you go there, you'll be proud that that is your district hospital. It is standard. Okay. So that is the idea, or the picture I have in mind, that we will have 88 of these across various districts in the country. And that is a lot of money. Of course, a lot has been said also about the cost, about the cost of these, whether the costs were realistic or not. Yeah. But I think it's something we will get to with time.
Okay. So can we afford this 88 hospitals plus 3 other infectious?
You mean financially?
Financially.
I don't know. I don't know.
And 6 regional hospitals.
Yes, 6 regional hospitals.
I have no idea whether we can
on the back
afford.
of the current challenges we have to deal with as a country in terms of spending so much and losing so much.
I think the president presides over the challenges. And so if there's anybody who is exposed to information regarding the challenges, that is the president who is more informed. And so if in the midst of the challenges he comes out to say that this is what I want to do, I will not doubt his basis for saying that. Now, Selom made a point that I just want to quickly chip this in about the National Development Planning Commission. Now, it looks like one institution with good intentions, but has been just going around in circles. And I've always believed that not until we stop pushing ex-politicians into NDPC is going to go around in circles all the time. That if you want people to do a long-term thinking for the country, we are saying that apart from politicians, nobody is able to think. So for as long as we keep putting politicians, ex-politicians, people with known partisan affiliations there, successive governments will deal with it with suspicion, as we are seeing. There are numerous academics in our universities, in our research institutions, in our NGOs, you know, people with track record, people who have worked in international NGOs, the UN agencies, that we can, you know, draw into NDPC so that it will be seen as one, you know, neutral organization. But because of the suspicion, nothing happens. Or even if something happens, the ruling government will now decide whether they should use it or not. So that's one problem. Now coming to the, I mean, any form of infrastructural investment should be a welcome idea, especially when it's targeted in the manner that the president announced. And he did say that we want to put them up in districts where there are no hospitals. Now we can sit in Accra and say, oh, the big English. But if you come from a district where there's no hospital, it's a hooray for you. And so for me, it's welcoming news and it's very positive. Now you ask the question, can we afford? I don't know. Now, but I flip it to say one thing, that again, it will be good news if we can afford, if we have enough money to build 88 district hospitals. That's progress. The other side of the question is that, are we the only country faced with COVID thinking about building hospitals? And the answer is no. Even in the United Kingdom, which can boast of about 1,600 world-class hospitals across the length and breadth of the United Kingdom, they are still thinking of building more hospitals. Because as they say, the COVID has exposed the NHS.
But somebody said with the United Kingdom, they perhaps can afford to build.
No, that's what I'm saying, that you and I don't even know whether we can afford. Or you know. No, I don't know for a fact. But I'm just saying that the president must have had a basis for saying what he is saying. And if indeed the president or the government has the resources to put 88 hospitals, then it's good news for the country. I'm only thinking that it will not be business as usual. So give contract to Chinese people, give contract to Indian people, give contract to, they come quick, build and run away, and then all instruction manuals are in Chinese. If something breaks down, you have to go to China to bring some man to come and interpret. We have seen these things littered across the country. But I'm saying that if indeed we have the money, then it will be good to pursue this to the end, and also be able to create sub-industries and employment out of this.
Okay.
Because the world is changing. Even the mode of accessing money from other countries is going to change after COVID. And so, yes, if you have a certain 2 billion or 3 billion today, maybe another year you may not have it in the same manner as you had it, in 2020. So I think that if we have the money, we should be able to create more elements to generate first employment and locally induced revenue than just throw it out there once again for Western and international companies to come and take the same money away while Ghanaian entrepreneurs, Ghanaian contractors suffer. So for me, if the money is there, we should go for it, and more especially to do with the district hospitals. For me, I'm very, very keen.
Interested in the district hospitals. But there are some arguments also around this discussion about completing projects that were started by others that could also help to improve the health infrastructure, and not dealing with those and moving to building new ones. I mean, what do you think about those arguments? Are they genuine arguments?
No, I mean every debate is a genuine debate. But I don't think it's an either-or situation. I do not think it's an either-or situation, and building a new one should be conditioned on finishing an old one. You understand? For instance, if the government of Ghana today came in at a time when the Bank of Ghana Hospital at East Cantonment was halfway through, and they had to build a hospital in my district of Ejumako, are you saying that if they don't finish East Cantonment, they can't come to Ejumako? I disagree. Where is the needs assessment report that made the determination for people to place hospitals where we find them? I mean, if you can find hospital between the Bank of Ghana Hospital and 37 Military Hospital, what is the distance? And 37 Military Hospital is a first-class hospital. So what I'm saying is that let's look at the needs assessment. Who established the need to place hospitals where they are and to embark on such projects? If they are satisfied that this hospital has to be where it is and is in sync with our own vision, so be it. But I don't think that if government is started based on their own considerations, you necessarily by force you have to go and finish it, even if it does not sit well with your own vision. I am not a believer of that.
Yes, but what I think is, yes, you don't necessarily have to finish, but it's a cost on the taxpayer. You get me? So the taxpayer or the national kitty is always in red, as it were. So the little money, that's why I talk about the national plan. And even a lot of these things go to parliament, but we don't have, our parliament is said that whatever you take, the majority will always carry the day. So it lacks a certain rigor that will bring out the best. But again, that's parliaments. Parliaments across the world behave the same way. I would expect that a certain needs assessment is done. So, for example, you have hospitals being constructed in Fomina or Tepa or somewhere. These places also don't have district hospitals anyway. But if the hospitals being built in those areas are at a certain level, maybe the land could have been cleared. I would suggest that because they are needed in those areas as well, based on the needs assessment, which I wonder we do, though, those should be completed. It is not an either-or situation, though, but some has already started. So I think it is a good thing to complete those ones whilst we initiate another ones.
Where I agree with you is, for instance, it says that we are going for 88 district hospitals in districts without hospitals. Now, where I'll have an issue is, for instance, while they embark on the 88, there may be another 20 uncompleted
Abandoned, yeah.
district hospitals. You just can't skip and go and build new ones.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm making.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it breaks the logic. The logic is to take health care to the people right at their doorstep. So if the districts, say in Sawam Adroji, they don't have, or they have something that is halfway through, and you skip to Suhum to go and start a new one, that's not being fair.
Yeah.
That I agree.
Okay.
But the whole thing of somebody started, so go and finish. People forget that in most of those cases, the contracts are actually being given out already. And there are controversies on some of them.
Yeah.
So I think that, yes, while it will be fair to do a proper audit of all these things and make sure that the country does not lose, I don't think that we should be dragging people. You have to do it before you start a new thing. I don't believe in that.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, it's certainly the case. So I think we're making the same point, that where there's a need, I mean, so we mentioned Formina and Tepa and other places, those ones are at certain stages of completion or progress. What I think it will be cheaper, in my view, to just complete those ones than starting a new one. Starting a new one, we have to, because every government makes a certain infrastructure contribution to what is already there. And so if this government thinks its contribution in that arena should be putting up 94 hospitals, district and regional, great. And indeed, we have new regions. And so as we've seen in other regions, almost every region now has a district, a regional hospital. So it will only be fair that the new regions, in line with development, etc., also have their own regional hospitals. But if this determination is made in this time, no problem. But I think that what we actually need, urgently in this time, maybe temporary structures. For example, what they say the military is doing at the Burma camp, at Elwak
Stadium.
Yeah, Elwak Stadium. What we've seen Nigeria do using their stadia, etc. This would take a long time, 1 year. But that 1 year is very optimistic. In fact, overly optimistic to start from the scratch and build a district hospital to a point of commissioning and to start using it in 1 year in this Ghana is overly optimistic. Even if you have all the resources available, the hurdles on the ground, the land acquisition, yes, government can use its power, issue as an executive instrument, compulsorily acquire land, etc. But those things, compensation and things, they take time to do. Now, government will have to procure a contractor. It takes time to do that. The project will have to start. 1 year is overly optimistic. I hope we're able to do well in the 1 year. But I think, in my limited view, the more urgent need would have been the building of temporary structures to help hold the situation. We are told that a number of the people suffering this condition or the disease are being managed from home, and some in facilities. We don't know what the numbers are. But to manage such a situation from home, of course, other countries are doing it, but it's dangerous.
Every country.
It's quite dangerous, because we have instances where a lot of people are crammed up in small apartments or small rooms. That is our context. So great, like I said before, infrastructure development important. And when I think around this, the theory I come up with is that it is the people. We sometimes force our governments to do things like that. It is the competitive political environment that does this. My view actually is that this has set the tone for a certain political discussion. In this form, because it has taken the attention of the country and people who engage in social commentary, etc., from dealing with the subject matter itself, that is the COVID-19 itself. And now we are discussing building hospitals, and NDC will say this, MPP will say this. Now, as if we are in normal times. That is my only problem. I'm saying that the competitive political environment has caused this because, one, any government which comes, so for example, the Wa Regional Hospital was started by the Yeah, President, what did they say? They said, you will not build your own. Somebody has built his. All you know is to commission. We saw it at the Madina or the Ghana East, where the COVID people are being kept now. very nicely, just like the Dodowa one. We saw the same comments. So what should he do as president? He also must try. He also want to give something to his communicators and people to talk about, because we are in a culture where when somebody starts something and you complete it, you don't enjoy the credit.
Get the credit.
And he's a politician. He will want credit. So that is what I call the credit or praise question. And the other question is the original project contribution or question. For this purpose, every government will want to contribute a project or two. So you have 1D, 1F, we have a lot of them, and we have the E blocks for Mahama. So the same argument, this is health, but the same argument goes for the education sector as well.
Okay.
So next year, we may not have a health crisis, we could have an education crisis. Free SHS people are going to the university. I'm not sure how much investment is being made.
Yeah.
So now we may have a crisis on our hands. Then I will come back and say that the situation has exposed a weakness in our system. I think the COVID thing should force us to come to a place where we will start thinking long term and not 1 year or 2 years, 2 years.
All right, we have to hold. You want
No,
to make
because
a
as for me, I'm a very happy man. No, I'm happy. I'm happy about the 88 hospitals.
But does Jumago have one yet, or is one of them?
Jumago has one.
Okay, already.
So you don't need one.
No, but you see, this is my point, and trust me, I've been observing this political landscape for at least 2.5 decades. And I was just telling myself yesterday that if from 96 up until now, the various political parties that came into power had this attitude of outdoing one another in infrastructure, would have gotten very far. I'm telling you, it looks like at the beginning they were rather outdoing one another with corruption. But now, because at the end of the day,
Ambulances.
they are not going to take the hospitals and the schools to their families.
Yeah.
They will leave them here and we will benefit. So that's why I say I'm very happy. So I don't have a problem with that. Regional hospitals, yes, we need the regional hospitals. Because, you see, we have had money that we could not account for. We've had money as a country that years, gone by, we don't even know what we use the money for. But if they are saying that, okay, we want to do this, now, you see, when they say that the COVID has exposed us, it is exposing years and years of non-investment in certain areas. Once again, it's not Ghana alone. Every country is singing the same song. The worst one is that, having noticed this, what are you doing about it? So if you don't do anything about it, that's where the problem is. But having noticed it, say, okay, now let's do this, let's do that. And you didn't say that let's do it for COVID. These are legacy projects. Many years after you are gone, they will refer to it. And I think that's why I say I'm happy.
Okay. You're watching one of the papers and saying...
So not in terms of infrastructure again. So I think whilst we are dealing with infrastructure, we must also look at human resource. That's another leg of the discussion. Investment in training doctors and nurses. There was an interesting discussion which came up during the UGMC times. And really, if UGMC is to see full operationalization, the argument is that Kolebu will suffer because a lot of the key professionals will require will have to come from Kolebu. So it will be like you are robbing Peter to pay Paul.
But that's also not true. It's not true.
No, but
why should it come from Kolebu?
No, that point
there are hundreds of Ghanaian health professionals outside of Ghana who have been looking for opportunity to come to Ghana.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to come from Kolebu. Because somebody said it doesn't mean I know my mates in the US, in the UK, who have been looking for opportunities to come back to Ghana and get into the government system and also help. So I'm not thinking that if they start then Kolebu, everybody. No, I don't think so.
Okay, we'll be right back and we'll look at still this COVID matter and look at our frontline health workers and how safe they are. Don't go away.
On Footprints this weekend. An accomplished academic, politician and sports administrator, Professor Joshua Alabi tells his story.
One day we went for a GFA meeting and ETMS happened to be there. They happened to be there and I was very vocal, I must admit, at meetings. So I was talking and then he told Nanabata, look at this man. He's a coward. They asked him to go and start a war. He's afraid. And then here he's talking like this thing. Look at him. Are you meaning me a coward? He said, yes, you are a coward. I said, me? I'll show you, see. From the meeting, I went to Nungwa to pick the form. I went to Nungwa to pick the form. I don't know. I mean, he challenged me.
He energized you.
Yeah.
Join us on Footprints this Saturday with Samuel Atamensa as one of Ghana's celebrated academics, Joshua Alabi, takes us through his story. Footprint shows this Saturday at 9 a.m. and Sundays at 4 p.m. on City TV. City TV, it's your world.
Footprints is sponsored by Bethel Logistics Company Limited, experts in shipping logistics.
So welcome back to What the Papers Are Saying. My name is Vivian Kailuk. I'm here with Samuel Atamensa and Selom. I don't know. Gentlemen, let's move on to the health workers proper and look at this discussions on the PPEs. It appears they won't go away anytime soon. On the other side of government, there are enough that are in the system. If you need some, you can even reach out to them and they will supply. On the other side of the health workers proper, they claim they still don't have enough. I think about 13 doctors so far have contracted the COVID-19 since it started. But are we getting it right with this distribution of PPEs to our health workers? Let me start with you, Selom.
Well, PPE have been issues across the globe. The US, the UK, every country I know or have heard has had issues with the PPE, but maybe it's the degree of the issues they have that is the problem. So other countries, I mean, it's been a discussion. So in Ghana, we've tried to acquire some and distribute same. So PPE, what are we talking about? The nose mask or the face mask, the other gadgets, the overall, all those things to just to protect you, the medical person or the health person dealing with a certain condition. So you are not infected. It could be right from the triaging area to the lab where the microbe or the pathogen is isolated to find out what really it is. So it's an issue. And health professionals being infected in the line of duty is not new, though it's not good. It's not new. We've seen it in many instances. Health professionals have been infected in the lab, etc. You know, but it doesn't mean it should continue. But it's part of the occupational hazards. So as much as possible, the authorities or the system should ensure that that is minimized. All right. So now there are issues about PPE. We hear that a number of PPE have been purchased or procured. Distribution of the PPE, it doesn't appear we are seeing a lot of transparency. So I think the call by the Ghana Medical Association that they want to be involved in the distribution of the PPE, I don't think is far-fetched. It didn't have to arise, but given the circumstance, we find ourselves that X number of PPE have been bought or procured, but there are people in other facilities who also who keep complaining that they don't have the PPE. I think it will be important for them to understand how the distribution is done. When they understand how the distribution is done and it is fair, they will find a way of communicating to their people. Sometimes somebody is doing so much, but because the person is not privy to information on the thing, the person may think you are not doing anything. So I think, you know, the GHS or the Ministry of Health should liaise with the GMA or the professional bodies so they understand how it is. Mind you, they are association, they are professional people, they have friends, etc. And I mean, the law of self-preservation, they care about themselves first because they have to be strong to face the fight. And having 13 of our people being infected by just doctors, we don't know about nurses, that could be more. I think it is not really cool. We have to ensure that as much as possible, we equip them well, we protect them as they are on the front line. We are celebrating them. They're on the front line. Let's give them what they require. You don't send your men to a battle when you don't give them, you're not giving them the weapons or the ammunition to use. It is not. It may not be. It's not deliberate, but maybe it is. It is how things have been.
But where are all these PPEs ending up then? Because we see so.
You see, a lot of them are single use. So, for example, if you have 10,000 of them, you spread it across. If you give somebody one, he uses it today. Tomorrow he will come and say he doesn't have. So it is the nature of the equipment or the apparel. You can't use them again. Though we have reusable ones. Maybe we need to start looking at the reusable ones. I imagine that will be more expensive, but if it will solve the problem, it's better. And I'm happy there is some local capacity delivering that. So the health minister earlier in the month said that some 3.5 or 3.6 million nose masks, for example, were being procured or manufactured, being manufactured for distribution. The question I ask is, have all these been, and she gave a 3-week window that by which time they will finish 150,000 a day or so. Have we finished distributing all these, or as projected the target wasn't met? We need to understand that. And when I believe the associations, the professional associations, craving to be part of the process, when they understand that this was the target, this was the projection, but unfortunately it's not happening that way, and we are trying to do this, I'm sure they are human, and they will understand the effort government is putting in to ensure that.
Quite some number of PPEs, but the distribution is really a challenge, because I think 2 days ago we were even at one of the factories just here who do the nose masks, and I think at 3 o'clock and there's another time they come for a lot of led by the military to distribute round. So it looks like things are going on, but still we have a lot of medical staff complaining that they are not getting it, which they need to protect themselves from this issue.
Well, I think again, I think Salom has made the point about the perishable nature of the PPEs. Once used, it's gone, and the reusable ones are also there. I think if the Ghana Medical Association is making this request, it's not far-fetched at all. But it's a logistics problem, and if it's about distribution, there has to be reports about the distribution. So yes, we brought you 10,000. We came the following week, there's none. What is the report saying? Or when they distribute, they don't have reports. That would be a failure. The report should tell us who has benefited, who has not. In fact, let me not use the word benefit. Who has received? Because let's not make it sound like it's somebody's personal benefits. No, but I am more curious about something. That if the PPE distribution is targeting public health facilities, then we have a big problem. We have a big problem, because if we are not drawing in the private medical facilities, then we are shooting ourselves in the foot.
The reality of it is a number of private hospitals have closed because they do not have the PPEs.
Well, that's the point I'm making. No, that's the point. But there are some operating. But what I'm saying, that Nyaho Clinic is private, is operating, and there are a number of them that are operating. Okay, Northridge Clinic is operating. What I'm saying is that in our strategic planning, let's have them in mind, because they may be private in terms of ownership, but they provide a public service.
That's right.
They provide a public service, and you can protect those in the state institutions and leave them. When they get infected, it becomes your burden. And that's why I'm saying that whatever the strategy is, we should add the private facilities. Then we can say that we are tackling it. We will never have enough in a pandemic. It's never happened before. We'll never have enough. But there should be, we should learn how to prioritize and also do a fair distribution, so that the whole situation is better managed.
Okay, let me take a few of the messages. This is from John from Tongo. He says, good evening, Madam and your panelists. Completing previous projects is a good idea, but let's ask ourselves when those projects started and when these projects are supposed to be completed. I am happy because there's no hospital at my district, so building 88 hospitals and 6 regional hospitals is a very good and welcoming news. Now, greetings to you. I want to thank you and City team on the, okay, so this is on the COVID-19 coverage. He wants me to bring Samuel and Bernard tomorrow on the COVID-19 show. This is Ray from Teshi. Okay, Ray. Now, this one says, anytime I hear Samuel speak, I say, yes, this is the man. Very, very passionate about the development of Ghana. This is Peter from McCarthy Hill. Good evening. Your learned friend, Salom, makes the issue simple for us. Please keep bringing him to the show. So, Salom, this is for you. And then this is from Perry from La. It says it's very important we complete old projects while looking at building new ones. Leaving unfinished old projects is just a waste of limited national resources. So these are some of your comments on the 88 district hospitals government intends to build. Let's move to the issue of the meningitis before we move to Unipass, and then quickly on that. The numbers keep rising. We've seen the Deputy Health Minister Dr. Okoboy going to the upper east region this week, trying to look at the seriousness of the issue and then move from there. But have we left that hanging because we are dealing with a pandemic now, which appears as more crucial, with want of a better word, to deal with now?
Well, thanks, Vivian. I think a number of factors could be attributable to that. Yes, you can't rule out entirely the focus of the nation generally, because the focus really was on COVID because the pandemic, because of how bigger economies, were crumbling under COVID. So it was really important that we put our house in order properly. But my difficulty with the CSM thing and how we left it to degenerate is that it is a perennial thing. It's something which happens every year at a certain time.
So
though we have information that this particular strain is quite different. But every year around this time, when we are getting to the dry season, we know that CSM or meningitis, occurs or happens in our areas, because that part of the northern part of Ghana falls in the meningitis belt. So the public health measures or interventions should have been activated, whether it's a new strain or not, and the mode of transmission, symptoms, etc. are the same. So whether it's a new strain or not, the public health measures should have been activated. The fact that there be general public health measures or protocols: wash your hands, a bit of social distancing. Though social distancing becomes so popular, courtesy COVID, they are the same, almost the same. So when you read on CSM, you may even think at some point you are reading on COVID, and etc. Their symptoms look quite the same, apart from the fact that in CSM you have stiffness of neck and a few other things. The symptoms they present are generally the same: the fever, the runny nose sometimes, all those things, coughing, etc. All those things are generally the same. So they are faced with a twin outbreak, but fortunately or unfortunately, the symptoms are the same. So you can put the two interventions or the two public health messages in one. And so when the van is moving across, you do the two at the same time. I wonder why we left it that late, because as of January and early February, when we didn't even have a case of COVID, the people were complaining and they were reporting cases. But for some reason, the attention of the nation really wasn't there. I don't know what the district health directorates, the regional health directorates were doing. So recently, just yesterday or so, Deputy Health Minister Okoboy is from there, and he's telling us that the situation is under control. And the people are saying that, we know the time it starts, January to somewhere June. We are now almost, tomorrow is May, we are in May. So the situation, we've seen the worst, according to them, we've seen the worst. So it's, yes, you may think it's under control, but the worst has happened. And if you look at the figures for this year's death figures, have been higher than the previous years, the few years, past. because maybe one, it's a different strain, and maybe because of the incidence of COVID and a few other things. I think it's not something we should be recording at this time in our history.
Okay, so can we make up for the lost period we've neglected those people up north?
Well, again, I don't have enough information to make that determination. But what I know is that the Deputy Minister of Health has been assigned to pay attention to that, lead a team to pay particular attention to that, for which reason he was in Wa all of last week. And so we can only pray that the best happens. I mean, this meningitis has been with us for a very long time. And in 2020, we shouldn't be seeing these numbers of casualties. If it were to descend to the south, how ready would we be? Another question for all of us to think about.
Okay, and I just want us to end on the health note. Tomorrow we have a virtual concert.
Yeah, the tributes
workers.
To the frontline health workers, yes.
So keep your dial and your TV on City and radio as well. It will start at 9 o'clock and end at 3 o'clock. And this is to all the frontline health workers. We just want to say thank you for all the sacrifices you keep making for us. Okay, so let's end. We have just.
But some of my police friends are asking me when we are going to do their own.
Security.
When we are going to.
So when are you doing that one?
The police people.
Yeah.
Oh, police. The police people. Wow, we thank them, but they are doing a good job.
You know what to answer their questions. They want to know when you are doing one for them.
Let's finish the health workers first, because the health workers, they are quite akra. But the police, they say, they manage it small.
And they know where to see us.
Okay, guys, let's move to the ports. And this week has been interesting. Actually, for some weeks now, there's been back and forth over moves to introduce the Unipass at our ports. We already had the GCNet and the West Blue and all that. On Wednesday, government started the rollout of Unipass, but today it has been halted because there were quite a number of hitches around it and all that. So GCNet has been asked to go back and deal with what it was doing before and all that. But was this rushed in getting it rolled at the ports, especially around this time when revenues must be something that should be very, because most of your revenues, the finance minister said we lost about 1 billion already because of the COVID fight and all that. Hello.
Well, the whole Unipass, GCNet, West Blue matter, it's at some point it's been confusing. At one point you wondered what the real issues have been, because different people speak from different angles and it got political too at some point. But so we spoke to Abba Loco this evening. Of course, she has an interest because she's with one of the parties, that's GCNet. And the whole idea, in my view, for example, GCNet, government has about 35% shares in GCNet. And so GCNet charges a certain figure, and Unipass is now coming in with no government shares and will be charging a certain figure which is higher than this. And I'm just wondering what really the considerations are, because people have talked about Unipass who have looked at their records in other countries, of course they are from Korea. Those reports, there could be countries where their records have been good. But I can even increase your shares in, if you so wish, and bring in a totally different entity where you don't have shares, very foreign. This GCNet has Ghanaian shareholding, bringing in a system which doesn't have any Ghanaian, shareholding, etc. And then the whole way they manage the transition, 28th, now it starts, and the guys didn't appear ready. So there's a whole lot of hula baloo around what to do, and now government had to do a
But
U-turn.
isn't it always with the case with these, bringing these platforms? Remember when GCNet started at the time, there were a lot of hitches. When West Blue started, there were a lot of hitches.
But what
Is it
really are the
different?
issues?
Yeah.
What really are the issues? Why are you taking GCNet away, of course, and then bringing in a different one? You know, and they didn't appear because you should start. And how was the transition going to be managed? Now 28 has come, start, and then now we have these problems. I thought the transition should have been managed better if indeed we really had to go with them. But now here we are, the situation was almost zero. Now you call back GCNet, and then they've come to clear the place, and they said today they made about 1,005 declarations, and the people are happy. You know, so I don't really have a lot of information on this, but I'm just wondering why you want to take out an entity in which you have shares, take that away, and bring in one that you don't have shares at all, and would you be charging your people more? I just can't reconcile.
What's your thoughts on this thing?
Well, I don't have any information at all. I have to be very honest. I mean, I'm not a professional in this, you know. The only thing I have is my own IT understanding of systems implementation and project management. And if my understanding of what is going on is correct, then it doesn't sound like take GCNet and then bring another company that is doing the same thing. What your typical West Blue does is what years ago you had SGS, Contechna, Inspection Services. You remember those companies? So inspection services and then other forms of declaration and things that West Blue would add to GCNet to make it complete. Now, GCNet too did their part. So the new platform, as I understand that they are trying to establish, which they say end-to-end, I hope we've all heard this, end-to-end, means that a single platform that contains all the elements as used to be performed by GCNet, West
all
Blue,
these entities.
So everything put together on one platform. That's my understanding. Every form of system implementation will come with hitches. Once it's technical in nature. My only curiosity is the form of takeover, you know, and when you have such real-time processing, it's always better to do a parallel takeover, which means that even if you're taking over from an existing company, you find a way, a window space to run along while you perfect the new system, and then you can do an eventual, you know, handing over. But I don't know how it was done. Now, from the news we are hearing, it sounds like it was just abrupt, and that I'll be very surprised. Now, another thing is that the Unipass has not stopped. It has actually started.
Okay.
So it's not that they have stopped and called in GCNet. They haven't stopped.
So it's still running?
They are running in Takrady Harbour. They are running at the airport.
KIS.
They are running.
But not at Tema Port?
No, parts of Tema Port is also running. And the GCNet was invited to come and also
run
alongside. And not this is not replication, because there's an overload and they had to clear. Now again, what is also not clear is the kind of relationship that the state is going to have with GCNet and the rest going forward. Whether they are going to give them another contract for them to operate, or whether they are just going to phase them out, that's yet to be determined. But if what they are telling us about the efficiency and then the eventual cost of running business at our ports is anything to go by, then we should do a lot more consultation, a lot more work together with all the stakeholders so that we can have a near perfect system.
All right. Okay.
I'm also told that when we say that GCNet is 35% owned by government and the Unipass is actually going to be transferred to government, the whole system.
Oh, okay.
They have their server at the Ministry of Finance,
I see.
as opposed to the others,
Okay.
with a large foreign input. Now, if the foreigner gets angry and carries his tail, we are in trouble.
Okay.
I mean, that's an oversimplified thing to say, but I'm just saying. So we should all be patient and go through the system and be fair to all stakeholders.
All right.
We should be fair. Because see, my thing is that don't bulldoze your way through because you are in government.
Okay.
Because tomorrow you may not be in government.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much, Samuel Atamensa and Selam Adono. When we come back, we have Vivian's view. Stay with us. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic is not only a threat to anybody's life, but every country's health system, its job security for its people, and revenue flows, among others. Now, if you read Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Attah's article in the Financial Times recently on how he's tackling the COVID-19 pandemic, he said Ghana has lost more than $1 billion in revenue. And that brings me to the Unipass GCNet West Blue saga, which really is on who can better manage revenue inflows from our ports. Now, for months, the government has been facing high levels of resistance from stakeholders at the ports over its plans to bring in Unipass. But despite that opposition, government on Wednesday went ahead to implement the system. But it was unsuccessful. It was fraught with a lot of hitches. And on Thursday, it was forced to put on hold and bring back GCNet. But at a time when any source of government's revenue inflow is crucial, we will definitely get our fingers bent if we experiment with a system which is yet to be proven. Why are we not focusing on rather making the current system, which is run by GCNet and West Blue, more efficient if we believe it's not, instead of collapsing it entirely? Our failure to deal with this matter is likely to lead to a huge mess at the ports, which will have a negative impact on not only our ports but other crucial aspects of the economy. Now that the government has put the implementation of Unipass on hold, it must use the opportunity to relook at the system by, for example, conducting an independent review to provide answers to questions like, why didn't Unipass work despite months of piloting? Why the implementation was done when there were clear challenges with the system? Also, why no concrete action was taken when the challenges were unfolding at the Takoradi port, which was on a pilot for months? Now, it is known fact that we can churn out more revenue from our ports if we run an efficient system there. So listen to this. The Ghana Revenue Authority in 2018, for example, was unable to meet its target for that year because of unlawful operations at the ports. The revenue fell short of as much as 2 billion cedis. In 2018, our total import revenue increased from about 12.7 billion cedis in 2017 to 13.2 billion cedis. Now, that growth in revenue realized from imports largely has been attributed to implementation of the paperless port system at the country's seaport by the government. So in this troubling period, a country's revenue is very critical. That is why managers of any national kitty will guard inflows into their coffers with all their might, because this unforeseen enemy is not only a killer, but one that is eroding revenue inflows. This has been Vivian's View. My name is Vivian Kai Loco. Thank you for watching What the Papers Are Saying. Goodbye.